It might just take a minute. It took a minute last time. So, do you remember what you did last time to make this? Is this a Samsung? Okay. Yes. Okay.
Hello, welcome to our second quarterly grief conference. Thank you so much for coming to spend your evening with us here tonight. We have wonderful speakers with amazing insight, and I appreciate you guys coming. This will be live streamed and we will have it recorded so that you can access it later or share it with others that you think could benefit from this. We're going to jump straight into our speakers. We're going to start with Angie Lucas. Angie writes, I'm reading notes. Angie writes little stories about big childhood challenges. Her picture books are about grief and loss, embarrassing family secrets. They spark essential conversations between children and their caregivers. She's the author of many children's books. She also enjoys wordplay, humor, novel combinations of fact and fiction in her writing, a lifelong language lover, and an unapologetic word nerd. That's her words, not mine. I would never call her a nerd. Angie loves yoga, freshly sharpened pencils, fresh mountain air, volunteering in her faith community. She is the mother of one child through marriage, one through adoption, and one through birth. Angie lives with her precious patchwork family near Salt Lake City, Utah, and we feel so honored to have her here tonight to share her wealth of knowledge. So, Angie Lucas.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Joy, for inviting me. Am I speaking into the mic good enough? Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, I am a children's author. I am from Bluffdale, Utah, and while I did write a book about grief, I am not an expert on grief. I'm only an expert on my own grief, just as you are an expert in yours. So before we dive in, I want to give you permission to hold on to the things from my remarks that resonate with you and discard those that don't. Grief is a hard and tender thing to talk about. It's so easy to give offense and to take offense, and because we are starting from a place of woundedness, the tiniest poke can feel excruciating. So it is a brave and vulnerable thing to be here for all of us, and I want to honor that, and I promise you that there will probably be tears on my part at some point, but I'll try to keep them to a minimum, and I want to know you are free to cry with me or not. You are free to agree with me or not. You are free to be angry with me or not. However you feel is allowed in this room or watching virtually as well. These are my other books. So I have my big Dumb Invisible Dragon, my big Embarrassing Elephant, and Rafa and the Wrong Legs. Besides being an author, I'm also a mom. In between these two children, I suffered a loss which to many in this room may seem small. In a literal sense, the loss truly was very small. I had a tiny baby girl who died before she was born, but the loss was also huge. There were many factors complicating this experience of grief, and despite having experienced grief before, this was the first time I fully understood what writer Anna Quinlan has called the continuous presence of an absence and a whisper in the world and a clamor within. I'm going to share this whole quote, which I can't ever read without crying, but grief remains one of the few things that has the power to silence us. It is a whisper in the world and a clamor within. Grief is unspoken, publicly ignored except for those moments at a funeral that are over too quickly, or the conversations among the cognoscenti, those of us who recognize in one another a kindred chasm deep in the center of who we are. Maybe we do not speak of it because death will mark all of us sooner or later, or maybe it's unspoken because grief is only the first part of it. After a time, it becomes something less sharp but larger too, a more enduring thing called loss. Perhaps that is why this is the least explored passage, because it has no end. The world loves closure, loves a thing that can, as they say, be gotten through. This is why it comes as a great surprise to find that the loss is forever. That 2 decades after the event, there are still those occasions when something in you cries out at the continuous presence of an absence. An awful leisure, Emily Dickinson once called what the living have after death. I love these words because they felt so familiar, and I feel that they bring to the front feelings that are hard to put into words. Putting feelings into words is a powerful way of not only honoring the feelings that you're feeling, but it's also a signal to your brain that maybe those feelings and thoughts can be organized, can be ordered, can be translated, can be understood at least a little bit. I went through, that's how I approached dealing with my grief. I went through several drafts of putting my grief into words. I played with the idea of carrying a heavy backpack on a journey, of turning my broken heart into a character, like the heart being the character. I wrote about the things I wanted to keep from the experience, like my love for that tiny baby, the kindness shown to me by family and friends. I wrote about holding on and letting go. In the end, the metaphor that resonated the most for me was the idea of an invisible dragon. I'd like to read the story to you now, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about how it came together. So, okay, I'm going to grab my copy of the book, just because I can't read it from on my tiny screen. Have you ever seen an invisible dragon? Neither had I. But one day last May, a giant one swooped in and landed on my head, right on top of my head. It was the day Ollie's mom came to get us from Turtle Hill Park instead of my mom. She had a funny look on her face, and she opened her mouth 3 times before any words came out. I don't know if the dragon rode to the park with Ollie's mom or if he was already there hiding in the trees. All I know is I didn't see him coming, and once he was there, he would not go away. Dad and I had to get used to making dinner without Mom there. We had to get used to how quiet it was in the car without her singing along to the radio. We had to get used to movie night without her famous peanut brittle popcorn. But that big dumb dragon didn't even notice. He moved right in and made himself at home. He curled up on my chest every night when I was going to sleep. I swear he must have weighed a ton. He made it super hard to get out of bed in the morning. At school, he cast a ginormous shadow that followed me everywhere. And if you think it was easy to stand up straight with a dragon on my head, let me tell you, it wasn't. I think he's the reason some kids didn't talk to me as much anymore. Some days I ignored him. I pretended he wasn't there at all. I played hard and laughed like crazy, even louder and crazier than before, but that didn't make him leave. Other days I got angry. You can't believe how mad I got. I yelled and shouted at him, at everyone. What did that dragon do? He put on his headphones and tuned me out. There were also days when I'd reach up and pull his big, heavy wings around me. I would curl up like a caterpillar and hide away for hours. It wasn't always so bad to have him around. Still, almost every day, I tried to make a deal with him. If you'll just get lost, I'll never say a bad word ever again, I told him. I thought maybe if he left, things could go back to the way they were, but he didn't seem to care what I wanted, not one bit. Then one day, when the sky was filled with cotton candy clouds, Ollie invited me back to the park. I made myself roll and cartwheel and race down Turtle Hill just like before. I ran so blazing fast that my hair stood straight up like uncooked spaghetti, which made Ollie giggle. Then something happened that I wasn't expecting at all. For the first time in months, I forgot all about my dragon. When we ran out of breath, we flopped down on the grass and took turns spotting shapes in the clouds. I see a giant octopus, I said. Does that look like a chicken to you? Ollie asked. There's a pig, or is that a bear? I asked. That one kind of looks like a dinosaur, Ollie said. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's a dragon. It's probably hard to see on the screen, but there is a dragon cloud above the boys. I don't know what that dragon saw up there in the clouds, but after that day, he started soaring even higher and staying away longer. He often disappeared during gym and recess. Sometimes he'd miss a whole soccer game. Once he was gone for an entire weekend. But he came back just in time for my birthday party. I tried all of my tricks to make him go away. Skedaddle, vamoose. What do you think he did? He put on a rainbow-striped cone hat and stayed for the party. I finally just gave him a piece of my birthday cake. That night, as I waited for sleep, I realized something. Which can take a while when there's a big dumb dragon in your bed. I realized something. My dragon didn't feel as heavy as he did back when I was 6. I guess my birthday wish came a little bit true. Hey, remember when I asked if you've ever seen an invisible dragon? That was a silly question. You can never see one by looking straight at it. You have to look at the person underneath. So I want to turn back to the title and dedication page and introduce you to a couple of other people who helped bring this book to life, because it takes a lot of people to make a picture book. First, there needs to be someone to write the words. That's me. Second, a book needs an editor. That's Jen. She works for the publisher, and she helps decide what books to buy and which illustrators to hire. And third, someone to draw the pictures. This is Birgitta. She was born in Iceland. Jen was drawn to this story because she had just lost her mother. And Birgitta was drawn to the story because a close friend of hers, who was a mother of young children, had recently died. We all brought pieces of our hearts to this story and memories of those we love. I wanted to point this out because each of us has a different story of grief, and yet there are pieces of it that feel the same. As Anna Quindlen said in that quote before, we recognize in one another a kindred chasm deep in the center of who we are. When I first wrote the story, I felt strongly that the loss should be vague. I wanted anyone who had experienced any kind of grief to be able to relate to the story, so I didn't want it to be clear who had died. My editor gently pushed back again and again. She told me that children are good at seeing themselves in stories, at finding commonalities between their own experiences and what they read in a book. I didn't fully believe her at first, but when I saw the art for the first time, I finally understood. It would have been much too sad to see this little boy alone with this dragon through the whole book. We have to see who else is with him, his father, being there with him, and his friend Ollie. And for that to work, we also have to know who is gone, which was the mother. And it also taught me a lesson. Grief and loss are never vague. Every experience of grief is as specific and unique as our relationship with that person. As grievers know better than anyone, the depth of our grief reflects the height of our love. The dragon itself was also not what I was expecting. I had an image in my mind, which I can't remember anymore, because once I saw this dragon, it instantly replaced whatever I was picturing before. But I know I imagined the dragon to be a little bit more indifferent, maybe pretty stubborn and unconcerned with how the boy felt, because that's how my own grief felt, kind of relentless and indifferent. But this dragon is so caring toward the boy, almost maternal, and I loved that. And just seeing this art made me feel differently about my grief. Especially on this page where the little boy curls up with the dragon and pulls those big wings around him. But there are other pages in the book where the boy ignores the dragon, gets angry at him, tries to bargain with him, gets hyperactive. These are all ways kids can cope with big emotions that they don't understand. As we switch to talking a little bit about kids and grief, I want to share a couple of scenarios that have stuck with me about children and grief. Again, not from a place of expertise, but from a place of observation. So a very successful children's writer I know, she was talking about how her dad died when she was a teenager. And she was a journal keeper from a very young age. She recently went back to read through her journal from that time, from the month that her dad died, and she was shocked to find that she had not written a single word about her dad. Nothing about the fact that he had died, nothing about the funeral. In hindsight, it was just page after page about the boy she had a crush on at school. In hindsight, the death of her dad loomed so large in her life, so she was shocked to find out that she had not written about it then. But in the moment, in her teenage brain, she did not have the skills to process it or to face it, or maybe on some level, she kind of thought if she didn't write about it, it wouldn't be real. Another story I remember is hearing a man on the radio talking about how his dad died when he was young, and he barely cried at all. Not at the funeral, not around that time. A few years later, his dog died, and the floodgates opened. He cried mourned more strongly over the loss of his dog than he had over the loss of his dad. And it's not because he loved the dog more, and it's not because that had a bigger impact on his life. A couple of different things were going on for him. For one thing, he was a little bit older, and he better understood what he was going to be facing with the grief. And also that second experience unlocked some unexpressed feelings. So in a way, that brought up the grief from his dad. Let's see. And another recent observation I had about some children I'm close to who've been abandoned by a parent. It sounds so simple and so obvious, but it took me a while to recognize that their grief did not look the way I expected. And it's partly because kids are so good at living in the moment. They can swing wildly from one emotion to another, and they have no context for what this means for the rest of their life. So as an observer who loves them, I was feeling the weight of this loss for them throughout their whole future. They're not cognitively capable of doing that. They only know how it feels right now. So it's important to meet children where they are if we can, rather than assigning our own feelings to them. And I love this quote, to just remember it doesn't happen in neat stages. It's unique to the person, and it's influenced by so many different factors. Another thing that's common that these three scenarios bring to light is the concept of regrieving. As kids reach new developmental levels, they're going to reintegrate aspects of the grief process and experience it again with the new cognitive abilities that they have. So it was a new term to me when I first read it, but it's helpful to understand as you continue to support the grieving children in your life that they're going to experience it anew when they reach milestones and they realize that their person is not there with them like they might have expected them to be. So how can we support children in grief, especially when it doesn't happen in these nice, neat, easy stages and when it doesn't look the way we expect? For me, reading books is one way. It doesn't fix anything, but it's beneficial because this kind of connection time is profoundly important, and kids love seeing their thoughts, worries, and experiences reflected back to them in books. And there's something about the physical presence, being with the child, holding the book together, and flipping pages. You're very present in the same moment together in a way that you can't get in a lot of other scenarios. You're focused very deeply on the same words, looking at the same pictures, and having a shared experience together. So I recommend reading a lot of different books. Not every book will resonate with every child, and that's okay. So try several and see which ones help them feel seen or understood. And here is a handful that all tackle grief from different directions. Two of them aren't even directly about grief, but they are extremely useful and wonderful nonetheless. Ida Always is one that's great for a longer illness because you are with the two polar bears together while the illness is happening. As you noticed in my book, the death happens off the page and it's more sudden and unexpected. After the Fall and The Rabbit Listened aren't directly about grief, but they're also wonderful. And The End of Something Wonderful is actually about pet death, and it's like, I can't read the small. Yeah, it's a guide to a backyard funeral, so it's about pet death, but it can be a great guide for helping kids walk through what grief is before they experience the death of a person. And pet death can be, if it's their first experience with death, enormous. We lost a dog in November, and my 15-year-old has really mourned, like really, really, really grieved. And I can see that in her in a way that I maybe wouldn't have recognized before I had my own experiences with grief. So that can be huge too. And the previous slides were not specifically religious in any way, but if you are a person of faith, definitely seek out books that explain your beliefs and reinforce those beliefs in child-friendly ways. And here's two examples for that. Another way to help children in grief is to educate ourselves. Just being here or watching online certainly counts. And I know Tracy from the Sharing Place is going to have excellent tips for you also. And as a non-expert, the best I can do for these practical hands-on tips is to offer you some free downloads. I have this kit on my website, and there will be a QR code at the end. It has additional resources, discussion guides, and coloring pages, and activities to help kids engage with the themes of the book. And there are 2 pages for parents. I talked to a licensed clinical social worker who works with the Bradley Center, which is a local grief support organization. And so she shared with me a brief overview of the way children think about and understand death at different ages, from baby up to teen. And it helps explain what they may or may not understand at each ages and how they would process loss. And then in that guide, there's also 5 tips to help an adult caregiver understand the basics about what to do. And there's so much more help you can find at a grief center like the Bradley Center or the Sharing Place. And you'll hear more practical tips from her. But one tip I would like to share is to not shy away from using the word death or died. Kids can be very literal, and they might not understand things like passed away or we lost someone, a small child might think, well, let's go find them. It just doesn't make sense to them. So I think we as adults can feel uncomfortable saying someone died or there was a death, but kids benefit from the clarity when we can offer that. So I'll leave this QR code up so you can access those resources and read those on your own from the experts. But since the thing I'm an expert in is children's books, I wanted to share another story with you that explains beautifully what to do and what not to do when supporting a child or anyone else in their grief. This is The Rabbit Listened by Corey Dorfeld. One day, Taylor decided to build something new, something special. Something amazing. Taylor was so proud. But then, out of nowhere, things came crashing down. The chicken was the first to notice. Cluck, cluck, what a shame. I'm so sorry this happened. Let's talk about it, cluck, cluck. But Taylor didn't feel like talking, so the chicken left. Next came the bear. Grr, rawr, how horrible. I bet you feel so angry. Let's shout about it. Gar, rawr, gar. But Taylor didn't feel like shouting, so the bear left. The elephant knew just what to do. Trump-a-da, I can fix this. We just need to remember exactly the way things were. But Taylor didn't feel like remembering, so the elephant also left. One by one they came. The hyena, hee hee, let's laugh about it. The ostrich, gulp, let's hide and pretend nothing happened. The kangaroo, tus tus, what a mess, let's throw it all away. And the snake, shh, let's go knock down someone else's. But Taylor didn't feel like doing anything with anybody, so eventually they all left until Taylor was alone. In the quiet, Taylor didn't even notice the rabbit, but it moved closer and closer until Taylor could feel its warm body. Together they sat in silence until Taylor said, "Please stay with me." The rabbit listened. The rabbit listened as Taylor talked. The rabbit listened as Taylor shouted. The rabbit listened as Taylor remembered and laughed. The rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to hide, to throw everything away, to ruin things for someone else. Through it all, the rabbit never left. And when the time was right, the rabbit listened to Taylor's plan to build again. "I can't wait," Taylor said. "It's going to be amazing." I love this story because it can relate to so many different losses or disasters or challenges that happen. And it's a relatable story for a child, but even to an adult reading it, you can see so clearly what helps and what doesn't when we're supporting someone in grief. Another one I love is After the Fall by Dan Santat. I'm not going to read this whole one to you, but it's basically the idea of Humpty Dumpty falling off the wall, feeling broken. No one can put him together again. And I'm going to give you the spoiler at the end. But he goes through a grieving period, but then decides to start making paper airplanes as just something to do while he was healing. And he failed at first, but finally got the paper airplanes to work. And unfortunately, the paper airplane, it says, unfortunately accidents happen and the paper airplane goes sailing over the wall. So now he's lost the new thing he was doing to cope. And he gathers his courage to climb up. Even though he knows accidents can happen, he didn't look up, he didn't look down, he just kept climbing until he was no longer afraid. And then It says, maybe now you won't think of me as that egg who is famous for falling. Hopefully you'll remember me as the egg who got back up and learned how to fly. So he was, a bird inside all along. And I think reading stories like this that show brokenness and repair can be powerful ways for kids to find those lessons in themselves in a way that's not just telling them what's going to happen. They can just identify with a character and feel that sense of hope that they may need. So I'm grateful that you guys all came. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share some of my favorite books with you. And that's all I have for today. So thank you.
I don't know why I'm not a big crier, like hardly ever. Ask my kids, I hardly cry, but the first time I read your book, I literally cried. I was in the office, I'm like, this is so beautiful and impactful. So thank you for your gifts and talents and sharing that with us. I was sitting there, I went and got tissues because you said I'm gonna cry. I'm like, oh no, it's all over. I got tissues. So if anybody needs tissues, raise your hand, I'll pass them around. Okay, our next speaker is Tracy Seegmiller. Tracy worked as a bereavement coordinator with the Intermountain Health Care, and she spent nearly 10 years as a forensic interviewer for the Utah County Sex Crimes Task Force, the Utah County Child Abduction Response Team, and the Division of Child and Family Services. Tracy is now the Utah County Director for the Sharing Place. The Sharing Place is a nonprofit dedicated to providing grief support groups for children and families. Her career reflects a deep commitment to supporting and advocating for children and their families through some of life's most difficult moments. Tracy, it's all you.
Thank you, and thanks for having me here tonight. Can you hear me okay?
I'm going to turn off the mic.
Okay.
Taylor's going to turn off the mic.
Okay, thank you. Oh. Well, I'll try to talk a little louder in the meantime. So I'm Tracy Seegmiller. I'm the Utah County Director for the Sharing Place. We are a nonprofit organization, and we provide children's peer-to-peer support groups. So we are not clinical or therapy, but our motto at the Sharing Place is that no child grieves alone. And so children get to come and be in a support group with their peers who are also grieving the death of someone. Oh. Okay, thank you. This is just an agenda to help keep me accountable, so if I get off track or miss something, you can let me know. But we're going to talk about just a few grief basics, grief and development, how to talk to children about death, the importance of grief support for kids, and then how the Sharing Place does provide that grief support. So these are just some good basics for anybody who is grieving or supporting someone who is grieving. The first is that grief is different for everybody, even within the same family, and that's because everyone's relationships to the deceased are different. Second is that there's no timeline for grief, and so you can see an example here of a family and how it might look different for everybody. Angie mentioned this as well. This is really important, that kids re-grieve with each developmental level as their brain grows. The 5 stages of grief were not written for the bereaved. So it's really important to stress that nobody needs to follow a specific steps for their feelings and emotions. And then you'll recognize a book that Angie talked about and read to us tonight, The Rabbit Listened. Listening is one of the best tools we have as someone who's supporting a child or anyone grieving. And then just remembering there's no perfect way to grieve. Everybody grieves differently, and to respect that. Some factors that can affect how a person or how a child grieves: the age of the survivor and their relationship to the person who died, the nature of the death, the survivor's support system, the emotional and mental health of the individual griever, and again, the relationship with the person who died. So just as a little bit of background on grief and how it affects children developmentally. For our preschool age kids, they're going to be talking about what happened. So their brains can't quite understand the concept of the permanence of death. So they'll ask questions over and over again. What happened? What happened? I know she died, but like, when is my mom coming to make dinner again? For our elementary age kiddos, they're talking about how things happen, the mechanics of how things happen. And for our older kids, they're talking about why things happen. Again, this is just some more developmental information. So for younger children, they need to understand the basics of what dead means. And so we explain that to them as their body stopped working and it's not going to work again. They might ask the same questions over and over again, which is very normal. So we want to be patient with them and be comfortable repeating the same information. They're going to be worried about their daily routine and how that's impacted. So yes, they're sad that mom died, but who's going to tuck them in at night? Who's going to take them to school? For elementary age kids, they can start to understand the finality of death, that their person's body stopped working and it's not going to work again. They might begin to have those feelings of feeling different or embarrassed. I facilitate a school-age elementary age group, and my group in September read Angie's book, My Big Embarrassing Elephant, and the kids decorated elephants, and the kids got to talk about their big embarrassing thing that they don't necessarily get to talk about with other people, which was really special. They can use mean words. For older kids, middle school, they're in that place of needing comfort, but also wanting to be more grown up. They're beginning to see the larger picture of how their person's death is going to impact them long term, and they're going to want more information and ask more detailed questions. For our teens, they might need more space, and we'll talk when they're ready, and they again can understand the bigger picture of not having their person in their future. So we're going to give you some tips on how to talk to kids about death. The first is to answer simply in the beginning. Each child will want and need to know different facts based on their personality and their readiness to know the answers. So start with a basic answer. So you might think, well, they're really little to share that with them, but we at our program see children as young as 3, and so you can explain something very simple as your dad died, which means his body stopped working and it's not going to work again. Or your mom died from cancer. In a suicide death, we can explain it as simply as your person died, their body stopped working, they made their own body stop working. Kids are going to ask a lot of questions, and if a child is asking a question, it probably means that they're ready to hear the answer, but always at a very developmentally appropriate level. Too much info can be overwhelming and traumatizing, so again, keep everything developmentally appropriate. And then lastly, go at their pace. When talking to kids, honesty is always the best policy. Kids cannot process what has happened to them until they know the truth of the situation. And if we aren't honest with them about what happened, they're going to try to fill in those gaps themselves, and we would not want them to grieve something that didn't happen or take blame for something that they should not be blamed for. Again, always be honest. Honesty helps build rapport and trust so the child knows that they can come to you with other questions that they have, that you're going to be there for them, give them accurate information. And like Angie mentioned earlier, we want to avoid euphemisms such as they went to sleep, or we lost them, or we passed away, or they passed away. This can be very confusing for children just on a developmental standpoint. So we want to use the words dead and died and be comfortable using those words. Listen in a non-judgmental way. So when we're Taylor or the rabbit, we want to listen and be really good listeners as we're supporting somebody. And so somebody might say something to you, and you might think, I have no idea how to respond to that. That's really awful. We don't want to project our own feelings onto that. And a tool that you can do, especially that's helpful when talking to kids, is something called reflective listening. So you simply reflect back to the child something that you heard. And we're not assigning our own opinion or our own values. It's just simply repeating back, oh, your mom died? Your mom died. Oh, your mom died from cancer. Your mom died from cancer. We're just repeating it back. This helps the child feel heard and validated without us having to do. Sometimes at the sharing place we say, don't make the face like, oh my gosh, this is so awful. So if you do hear something, you can just simply stay calm and reflect back to the child so they know that they're heard and that they're understood. It helps us keep our own thoughts and feelings out of the conversation and keeps it about the child, and helps us listen and validate and show the child it's okay to talk about their person and that we're safe people they can talk to. And here is an example of some great reflective listening.
Ladies work with that, right? Yes. Did you understand it though? No. Oh, not this one. This is grand now. Yeah, this last one. That's what I was wondering. I don't know what they're gonna do next season, but they did some stuff this time. Exactly what I was thinking. Oh yeah. Right. Don't bring that in. You know what I'm saying? Don't do the same stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's like that. Yeah. Like go somewhere else with that. Don't bring it here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's what I said. They did. It's like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, what in the world? Don't do it here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Really? I thought the same thing. We think a lot alike, huh? Oh, that's crazy. Right.
I love that video so much because it shows that you don't have to know what a person is going through or even what they're talking about in order to be a good listener or to be supportive. I think we can skip recapping the basics. Ways to help children who are grieving: be available to talk on the child's schedule. They might not always come and want to talk when it's convenient for you. So again, being patient and being available when they want to talk. Help the child understand what happened, so be willing to give that information to them. Help the child preserve memories. Involve the person in everyday life. Use their name. Let the child know that it's okay to continue to talk about their person. Help maintain a routine. Consistency is so important for children, but be flexible, but also consistent. Help children form a coping plan for tough days. So what can they do if they're at school and they're feeling emotional or sad? Who can they go and let know or communicate that with? And remember, we can't fix this for them, but we can be there beside them and support them while they do the work to heal themselves. So you might think, well, why do children need so much support in grieving? And these are some sobering statistics that are specific to the state of Utah. In Utah, 1 in 15 children will experience the death of a parent or a sibling by the time they're 18. And these bereaved kids are 5 times more likely to die by suicide, 9 times more likely to drop out of high school, 10 times more likely to use drugs, and 20 times more at risk for behavior disorders. So we know that if we can get these kids in early and get them the grief support that they need, we can reduce these statistics. Grief support is so important because grief for kids impacts every area of their life, whether that's at school, they might have difficulty concentrating, lower grades, or not wanting to go to school altogether. Behavioral changes, emotional distress are all very common. But what a grief support group offers to children who are grieving is a safe space where children feel understood and accepted. Helps give them the language to express feelings that they may not have words for yet. It gives them role models in peers and facilitators who show them healthy ways to cope. And these coping skills reduce the risk of long-term mental health challenges, substance abuse, or unresolved grief in adulthood. For our volunteers and our employees who work at the Sharing Place, it's not a requirement that you have somebody, a significant person in your life who has died, but for a lot of our volunteers, they do. And so it's really special when a child is there in group talking about their dad who died, and we have an adult volunteer who's also talking about when their dad died, and they can form that connection and see an adult who's kind of gone through something similar and connect. Connection reduces isolation. So grieving children can often feel different. So at school, they might be the weird kid whose parent died from COVID or whose sibling died from suicide. But in a support group setting, they get a break from that and that stigma and get to be the same as everybody else. The sense of belonging there helps them realize that they're not alone, that they're not the only one going through this. Early grief support helps kids build lifelong resilience. When children are given tools to process their loss, they're better able to develop empathy and emotional intelligence, form stronger relationships, and approach future challenges with resilience. Which brings me to the Sharing Place and how the Sharing Place provides the support for kids here in our community. So the Sharing Place was founded, like 30 or 34 years ago, actually, in Salt Lake City. Our founder's name is Chris Shitras, and her husband died unexpectedly, and she had 2 small children, and she got them in to see a therapist. But she found that other than therapy, there wasn't really any other additional supports for her kids. And she happened to see an episode of the TV show 2020, and they were spotlighting the Dougie Center, which is the world's first children's peer-to-peer support grief center. And so she contacted her children's therapist, and they flew to Oregon and trained at the Dougie Center and came back and opened up the first sharing place. We now have 4 locations, so we're in Salt Lake City, Taylorsville, Pleasant Grove, serving all of Utah County, and just last fall we opened up in Washington County and Santa Clara. Now you might think, why is a special place like this needed? So the Dougie Center put together this video of some of their kids, what they said about their grief, and then how to illustrate it. And I think it really shows why it's so important.
Someone I love died. I've been crying, like, a lot. One day I'm playing basketball, and the next day, it's like everything is different. I don't know, it's hard to explain. But to me, grief just feels like an empty hug.
Sometimes I just don't feel like anyone gets it. Everyone says it's totally normal to have all kinds of thoughts and stuff. To me, grief feels like I'm going to be sad forever. I wonder if anyone else feels this way?
To me, grief feels like my heart hurts.
Like living the worst day, every day.
Like a Harry Potter dementor.
Like a tornado came and shook up my entire world. Like eating pizza. I hate pizza, yuck!
Grief feels like it pops in the gut every time I think about it.
Like butterflies in my stomach.
Grief feels like anger.
A bomb about to go off.
Like it's my fault.
Like when you drop your popsicle on the sidewalk.
Sadness and loneliness because I will never have a mother.
A heavy bowling ball in my heart.
A rotten apple.
Sad but angry at myself for not doing anything before he died.
Grief feels like nobody understands.
Like something blocking out the sun.
Grieving can feel different for everyone, but you can go somewhere and be with other kids your age who are grieving too. Places like the Dougie Center offer safe and comfortable spaces to play, talk, and express yourself, no matter what your grief feels like.
Even if that happens. So that's what we do at the Sharing Place. We provide a safe space where kids can come and be with other kids who know a little bit about what they're going through. So our mission at the Sharing Place is that no child grieves alone. So we provide a safe and caring environment for grieving children, teens, and their families to share their feelings while healing themselves. Each of our children's groups also has an adult or parent caregiver group. So when a parent or a caregiver comes to group, they can bring their kids to group, and then they go in another place and have their own group. We love that group because it helps parents or caretakers get support in their own grief and then how to help their kids through their grief as well. So the process, so if you are interested in coming to the Sharing Place, or if you know of somebody or a family who would benefit from the Sharing Place, this is what the process looks like. So they would contact me or the Sharing Place website, and the cell phone goes directly to me, and we schedule a family consult or an intake with the family to meet at our office. And this is a time to learn about the family's story, what brings them there to the Sharing Place. For a lot of our families, this is the first time they're able to talk about their person or tell the death story in full detail without having to worry about protecting someone else from information or their feelings. But the purpose of this is to learn about the family and their person, their loved one who has died. At that appointment, we determine which group to place them in. So we have 6 different types of groups based on age and by circumstance. Our groups run concurrent with the school year, so we meet from September through May, and a family can join a group at any time, but then we do take a break in the summer and then start again in September. The great thing about the Sharing Place, or one of the great things, is that there's no cost to come to the Sharing Place. Families are asked to consider donating a monthly gift at whatever amount they're comfortable with, but it's not a requirement. Our program is open-ended, so there's no set amount of times that a family can come. They can stay in our program as long as they want. Our average family stays just over 2 years. Some stay a lot longer, some stay less, but they get to decide when they're ready to close. Groups meet twice a month in the evening, so families attend with the same volunteers, the same other families, and they're placed in a group, and they know that it would be the first and third Wednesday or the second and fourth Tuesday, and so they would come consistently on those nights. Each of our support groups is supported by a group coordinator who's an employee of the Sharing Place who plans that night's activity, as well as 6 to 8 adult volunteers. And again, like I said earlier, our groups are organized by age and by circumstance. So our youngest group is our littlest group. This is children ages 3 to 5. Then we have, for our elementary age kids, we have a school age group. We have a suicide-specific group where every child comes, their person died by suicide. This is really important to increase connection and destigmatize a suicide death. And then we also have a complicated grief group where in addition to the death, there are other stressors on top of the death. We have a preteen group for middle schoolers, which is 6th through 8th grade, and then teens, which is 9th through 12th grade, and a parent or adult group that meets at the same time as each of those. The Sharing Place is growing. We've been in Utah County for 3 years, and just this month we started our 9th support group. So there is a really big need, and so we're trying to increase community awareness and find these families and let them know that we can support them. We touched on that already. So how do groups work? So if a family comes to the Sharing Place, what they can expect is every month has a different theme related to grief. Next month's theme is going to be continuing relationships and what that looks like for everybody. But we start with an opening circle. We welcome everybody to the group that night. And then every group does a check-in. Whether you're a 3-year-old or a grown-up, you'll say your name, the name of your person who died, how they died, and then you'll answer the question of the night. The question of the night is usually related to a theme, a feeling or emotion, or an upcoming holiday. After our check-in, we'll do an activity and then some playtime, which I'll show you a little bit in about just a minute. We do a lot of books. We love children's books, and so we'll read children's books and do what's called bibliotherapy, pull an arts and craft project from the book. We read Angie's book. We've actually done this with both of Angie's books at the Sharing Place. So I actually read Angie's book before I ever met Angie, so this is so fun when I get to see her. But for my Big Damn Invisible Dragon, we read the book with the group, and then the children built a little dragon Lego figurine together. For my Big Embarrassing Elephant, we read the book, and then the children painted elephant chipboards according to like different feelings for emotions for each color. So we do things like that. I don't know if you saw it out in the lobby, well, I'll get to it later, but we do a lot of stuff with children's books, so big fan. So after our activity and discussion, for our younger kids, our elementary age kids and our preschool kids, this is a chance for them to play. So each group is about 90 minutes, but 20 to 30 minutes of that in the end is reserved for children to play. So we have a huge playroom with so many fun things. Everything in there is designed for different expressions of grief. But the way children grieve is through language and play, and so providing them the opportunity to play is really important. Then at the end of the night, we have a closing circle, and our grown-ups come back and join us, and we talk about the activity that we did or the theme. And then each group kind of has their own closing ritual for how they end the night. My group likes to make a heart and share the love and pass it around in a circle at the end. Some groups do a guided breathing exercise or a checkout question to kind of reorient everybody to going home. We also observe anniversaries or memory nights or closings. So if a family wants to do a memory night or there's a date that's special to them, we'll end our activity early, and adults and kids come together, and that family gets to be spotlighted and share. They can bring pictures, show videos, memorabilia, and get to talk about their person, and the other families get to listen and ask questions. So everybody has an opportunity to do that as well. And then we also do a closing ceremony for our families when they're ready to close the program. A little bit more information about our suicide-specific group. This is really important. We have a higher ratio of adult to kids, and then we also do some extra learning about resilience, and then specific research-backed activities and discussions that specifically address suicide and safety planning. These are just some examples of some of our group activities. For our littles, again, this is children ages 3 to 5. The theme of the month was missing big moments. So what big moment or milestone has your person missed or will they miss? And so the coordinator made the flowers, and the children wrote or drew pictures of those moments on the leaves. So if you come take a tour of the Sharing Place, they're still there. Another thing they did for sadness is they made grief soup. What that is water-soluble paper, and so they can write a letter to their person or draw a picture of their person on this paper, and then you put it in the water and it dissolves, and so the kids collectively all get to make soup with their thoughts or feelings about their person. For our elementary age kids in suicide specific and complicated, you saw a book out there, the theme was sadness, and so all of the children got an opportunity to create their own little shelter for sadness. For love and gratitude, we read this book, Everywhere Still, and then we had origami paper, and the kids could write a note to their person, and they folded it up in the shape of a bird. For our preteen group, the theme was group bonding, and so they did a group puzzle. Each puzzle piece represented themselves or their person. And then this one I love a picture of is continuing relationships was a theme, and so they wrote down all the things they hope their person knows and the things they hope their person doesn't know. And that's still up as well. For our teens, we do a lot of fun things. So for anger, they got some ice blocks and took them out to the parking lot and popped on some safety goggles and took some hammers to them. For mental health, the group talked about songs that they listen to when they're mad or angry or sad or when they want to feel calm or feel better. And so everybody shared those, and then the group coordinator compiled it into a group playlist. These are some of the books that we love. You'll see some familiar ones, but these I'm happy to send a link if anybody wants these. But they're all very helpful, and we've used all of them at the Sharing Place. So Boats for Papa, we folded paper into origami into the shape of a bow. I talked about Angie's, my big invisible dragon. My group loves Breathe Like Bear. This is different guided breathing exercises, so you can breathe like hot chocolate, or you can breathe like a snake. You'll see the rabbit listened. Calling the Wind was out in the lobby as well. This is a story about the person who created the first wind phone, which is a phone out in nature that you can call or you can talk to, and the wind will carry your words to your person. And so the kids had an opportunity to make their own little wind phones. Just some more fun ones. Hope and the Winds of Grief, this last one, this is suicide specific, so this is really helpful for kids when there's a suicide death. Our impact. Here's a little video about the Pleasant Grove, Sharing Place in Pleasant Grove. My name is Tracy Seegmiller. I'm the Utah County Director for the Sharing Place. The Sharing Place is a nonprofit organization that provides grief support to children and families who experience the death of a loved one. There are a lot of great spaces here at our facility in Pleasant Grove. First is our memory tree. Children have an opportunity to come and write on the heart their person's name or draw a picture and hang it on a tree in memory of their person. We have a playroom which is designed for expressions of grief. Everything in our playroom is designed for different expressions of grief, whether that's role-playing with the Doctor's Activity Center, the dollhouse, or the dress-ups, or finding arts and crafts activities in the supply closet. Everything relates back to grief. The way children grieve is through language and play. Another opportunity for children to play and express their grief here at the Sharing Place is with our volcano room. There's not a volcano, it's not red, but it's designed for physical expressions of grief, whether that's physical feelings children may not even know they're holding on to, or that big energy that needs to get safely released. So in addition to children's grief groups, we have adult groups or caretaker groups that meet at the same time. So parents or caregivers can bring their children here to the Sharing Place, and while their kids are in group, they can attend their own group. It's so great that they get support in their own grief, and also help and support in how to help their kids process their grief.
Hi, I'm Holly.
And I'm Ivy.
And the Sharing Place is where we come to talk about our person who has passed away.
Sharing Place to me is like a safe place where I can feel safe and like show my emotions how like my person has died.
My son was born 4 days after my husband died. And yeah, a social worker at the hospital told us about the Sharing Place, and so we got on the list right away, probably just a few weeks after he died. I think it's been so helpful for our family to be able to, not just for the kids, but also for me to talk to other moms and say, hey, we're feeling like this, and we're all in this grief, and it's so relatable, like our experiences.
I would say it's definitely helped me that I can know that other kids have been through it, and it's not just like me and I'm alone.
I hope that other people are aware that this is out there.
I'm Lisa. I am a volunteer here at the Sharing Place, and I get to assist We get to help with the activities, and we get to play with the kids and chat and get to know each other. So I have been a volunteer with the Sharing Place for about 2 years, and I came to the Sharing Place because I have my own grief. My dad died almost 9 years ago, and grief has been a really special experience for me. And also, grief is kind of taboo. People don't like to talk about grief, and people don't like to talk about death. And once you've been through it, there's no one that you can talk to about it that really understands what you're going through. And so the beautiful thing about the Sharing Place is that you can come here and you can talk about your person, and everyone gets it. Like, everyone knows what it's like to have someone that they love die.
There are so many ways to support the Sharing Place. We really want to be sustainable in Utah County and be able to serve as many families as possible. So the top 3 ways to do that are we need families, volunteers, and funding. We're trying really hard to increase awareness in the community about the grief support services that we offer. So when a family is impacted by the death of a loved one, they know about our services and they know they can call and get an appointment right away. We need volunteers. Volunteers are the heart of our organization. Each of our group has 6 to 8 volunteers, and they support our coordinator in facilitating the activity, and they offer meaningful interaction and support to our kids. Lastly, we need funding. We don't charge families for our services, so funding is what makes it possible for us to provide the services that we do. And again, we want to be sustainable in Utah County, and without funding, we aren't able to do that. So donations go very far, however big or small. There's other ways to give back as well, whether that's in-kind donations, service projects such as putting together furniture, or cleaning and sanitizing your toys. There's many ways to get involved. Just for the sake of time, I'm not going to read all of the testimonials, but I do want to share with you a couple. This is from a parent who attended the Sharing Place. I appreciated being in a safe place to feel and talk openly about grief, all of it. The ugly and sad and anger, and the sweet and tender parts too. It was very reassuring to feel normal in the messiness of grief, being around other people that were grieving too. This is from a 7-year-old who attended in Pleasant Grove. It helps us feel our feelings when we're sad and we miss our person that died. From a 12-year-old. Everyone is so nice, and it helped to know I wasn't alone with my big feelings. It helped to know I could say things and not be made fun of. This is from one of our parents. The support we have all received from them has been phenomenal. My kids and me as well have made wonderful friends here that we love to spend time with. While we are all there under terribly unfortunate circumstances, it's a plus that the other families that attend are also going through similar things as we are, which helps all of the kids not to feel alienated. It's been a wonderful way to feel like we are a part of a group of people that truly understand how, with all the changes and the new dynamics in our lives now, that there are other people going through the same thing, and that there are other people thinking and feeling similar things. I am always recommending the Sharing Place to anyone who has children who have lost their person. I will forever be grateful to them. My family has found our people. We are looking for families in the community to serve. We know that everybody will be impacted by death and grief at some point, and so I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today, so you are another person who knows about the Sharing Place and can share this resource with grieving families in our community. That is all I have, so thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. What wonderful speakers we had tonight. I really appreciate all of your knowledge. I and Taylor were able to go to the Sharing Place and tour it not too long ago, and what an amazing place. Look, I'm going to get teary already, but every time I talk about it, it's such an impactful thing. And so if you know of families, or if you have time and could volunteer, I know they could use the support. And of course, if you don't have time, you can always donate, because money helps. Thank you so much for attending tonight. We have in the next room over, both Angie and Tracy have a table set up if you'd like to talk to them, get some of their insight. Angie has some books for sale if you're interested in that. But thank you so much for coming. We do have treats, cookies, always eat our feelings. Is it just me? No. Thank you so much for coming tonight. And then please keep posted on Instagram, on our social media. We will be posting our next grief seminar. We have one each quarter for the whole year planned. So we'd love to see you at our next one. So again, thanks for coming and thank you so much. These are for you guys, for your time and energy and talent sharing with us. We appreciate you. So thank you so much. Let's go eat cookies.